Okay, before going back to the analysis of YY system, let me show you a solved example on determining the phase sequence. Small v, small small va, small vb, small vc is what I am calling small van, small vbn, small vcn. N is missing here, but that's the same thing. N is understood. You are given the time dependent expressions for the three phase voltages. These are not phasors, okay? The corresponding phasors can be written very easily. The peak value is 208 volt in each case. Omega does not have to be known for solving this kind of problem. The phase angle is 27 degrees for VAN plus 147 degrees for VBN. So you can see that there is plus 120 degree phase shift between phase A and phase B. And then if you continue the same trend, you would get in phase C 147 plus 120 degrees. So 267 degrees. And from there, you are allowed to either subtract or add 360 degree anytime. So if from there, if you subtract 360 degrees, I think you will get minus 93 degrees. So it looks like it's a negative sequence. That's the way I look at it. Let's see the solution. Okay, they want you to first convert. Fine, let's convert the given time domain formulas into corresponding phasors. And this author is not my document, somebody else's. Okay. This author is using peak values, which I do also all the time. So VAN, N is understood in his case. And in time domain, he is using small letters, and phasors he is using capital letters. That's exactly what is done by me as well as most people. So VAN is 208 plus 27 degrees, VBN is 208 minus 147 degree volts, and VCN is 208 minus 93 degree volts. So, okay, if you take VAN as the reference, and then you calculate the relative phase shift, you see plus 120 degree and minus 120 degree. That means plus 120 degree and plus 240 degrees. So it is a progressive phase shift of plus 120 degree. So the phase sequence is not ABC but ACB. Basically what you do is you take the phase with 0 degree phase shift to begin with, then you see which value is negative but less. That is the second, that is the second letter in the phase sequence. And then you take the third value, which is also negative. Basically, if you are going in the negative direction, you see which phase has more phase angle in the negative direction. I call it negative sequence. Sorry, I call it positive sequence. Wait a minute. No, I'm mistaken. This is negative sequence. It's a matter of terminology. If you have progressive minus 120 degree phase shift, that is positive sequence. I know for sure. Okay, but here instead of giving that answer, he's telling you ACB. So A peaks first, C peaks next, and B peaks after that. Phase sequence essentially is the order in which the phases time-dependent voltages peak along the time axis. So the answer is either negative phase sequence, or even better answer is ACB. Okay. Now similar analogy to second problem also. Here you have got minus 18 degree, minus 138 degree, and then plus 102. So from plus 102, if you subtract 360 degrees, let's see the solution. You get, in fact, what he is doing now is he is taking the voltage A as the reference. So he is subtracting minus 18 from the other two phase shifts directly. Let's do that. So you get 0, minus 120 degrees, and minus 240 degrees. This is normally called positive phase sequence, and it is ABC. Okay. Normally, by default, we assume this all the time. RYB letters could also have been used instead of ABC. You are aware of that. Okay. So don't get confused if you see that in some problems. Now, this problem we will not be able to solve right away, but soon we'll come back to it. Let me now get back to YY system analysis, which I was trying to do last time. This is the document I was showing you last time, but this one is slightly better in terms of visibility. We would assume balanced load, although in the numerical problems you may encounter unbalanced load also. There you have to use your common sense as well as KCL, KVL, Ohm's law, etc. We'll solve problems one by one. But for now, let's say we are dealing with a balanced system. Generators are balanced. That means same VM, same omega. Load is balanced. That means all branches have the same impedance. Let's say ZPH. Generators have zero losses. Okay. So whatever is being generated is coming out from the lines. From the two wires coming out of the generators. From the lines, it's different. We have done that last time, that line voltages are different from phase voltage. We'll calculate them once again today. Okay. Transmission line impedances have also been assumed to be zero in this particular case. As I said, on the left side, on the generator side, we use small letters as suffices, while on the load side, we use capital letters as the suffices to various quantities. Now, assuming positive phase sequence, that means ABC sequence, VAN is VM 0 degrees, VBN is VM minus 120 degrees, and VCN is VM minus 240 degrees, which means VM plus 120 degrees. Either way, it's okay. And then, oh yeah, these values, you can calculate them on the calculator, I know, but I am keeping them in the document anyway for the sake of reference. Now, our objective is to calculate the line voltages, VAB, VBC, and VCA. And based on KVL application for each of the cases, you will see that VAB is VAN minus VBN, VBC is VBN minus VCN, and VCA is VCN minus VAN. Now substitute the values for VAN, VBN, and VCN from these equations and simplify. I did this last time, I know, but I'm going through it once again. Once you simplify, you see that line voltage AB has magnitude which is square root of 3 multiplied by the peak value of the phase voltage, VM. And also there is a 30-degree phase shift compared to VAN. VAN is assumed to have 0-degree phase shift. That is the reference. Okay. and then you repeat the exercise for VBC, you again find the same thing as far as magnitude goes. The magnitude of the line voltage VBC is square root of 3 Vm, but phase shift is now minus 90 degrees. So you see minus 120 degree departure from the other line voltage, VAB. And then VCA again sees the same peak value, but the phase shift now is minus 210 degrees. So another 120 degree phase shift compared to VBC. So there is a progressive phase shift in the line voltages also, and the sequence is same. It is positive for them also, but everything is shifted by 30 degrees when it comes to line voltages. And for unbalanced systems or for lossy systems, etc., things will not be exactly this. They will be quite different. There, it is impossible to predict. You'll have to do actual calculations for a given case. Now, anyway, in this ideal case, at least, you see that magnitude of line voltage VAB, line voltage VBC, and line voltage VCA are all equal. And they are equal to square root of 3 Vm. That is defined as the line-to-line voltage, magnitude, of course, a peak value. You can always define the corresponding RMS value as square root of 3 divided by square root of 2, an entire thing multiplied by Vm. And Vm divided by square root of 2 is defined as the VPH, phase voltage magnitude. This is how public sees these things, they call it phase voltage. Nobody says Vm or anything. Nobody says VAN, etc. They all say phase voltage. That means magnitude of each of the voltages VAN, VBN, and VCN. So in terms of purely magnitudes, VLL is the line voltage and VPH is the phase voltage in case of a balanced system. Now, line currents are fairly straightforward in this case. Whatever is coming out from the phase wires will become the line currents. I small a is same as I capital A. I small b is same as I capital B. I small c is same as I capital C. When I go to delta-delta system, it will not be that way. There actually line voltages and phase voltages will be same, but line currents and phase currents will be different. That's why it is important to maintain this nomenclature. And the fourth wire is the neutral wire, which carries all the currents back to the generators. So I've shown the current flowing backwards. Now, this is where I think I stopped last time. For balanced case, it is possible to draw per phase analysis. That means you draw the equivalent circuit for one phase at a time. In fact, if you do the analysis for one phase completely, other results can be easily obtained by shifting everything by 120 degrees. That's it. As long as the load has equal impedances in each of the branches. Of course, that means balanced load. Okay, so for phase A, the circuit is simple enough. Single phase generator with VAN value and single phase load with ZPH value. Losses are ignored anyway for now. So I small a or I capital A, whatever you want to call it, will be Vm divided by ZPH, because Vm has zero phase shift. Sorry, VAN has zero phase shift. Okay, you can draw a similar circuit for phase B, and then the equation for IB would be what is shown here. The equation number has been missed in scanning, but please live with it. And similarly for phase C also, same thing. Only change will be in the phase value for other things, for other phases. If the transmission line impedance is not zero, it's very easy to put it in the simulation, Between generator and load, you put the transmission, that given impedance, that's it. So ZPH will actually become ZPH plus Z line, whatever Z line is. So it's not that difficult. And actually I'm calling it ZL here. So in case ZL is given, the loss of the complex impedance offered by the transmission line, assuming it is balanced, that means it is the same for all phases as well as for neutral wire, then you put ZPH plus ZL. In fact, I am assuming that neutral wire has no impedance. If that has some impedance, that also has to be factored in when you are drawing the equivalent circuit. Okay. A lot of things here are based on common sense and your physical understanding. Now, in any case, supposing we continue this assumption that everything is balanced and lossless, what happens to the neutral current? Neutral will carry all the currents back. So neutral current, as long as you maintain the direction shown, will be I capital A plus I capital B plus I capital C, which means I small a plus I small b plus I small c. So I am using the formulas for IA, IB and IC from these equivalent circuits. 1 minute. Yeah, here. Okay. I plug in the values of IA, IB, IC from these equations into the equation for IN. And I simplify. Lot of, actually not lot. It's reasonably simple to simplify the result if you do it intelligently. Vm e to the power minus j120 degree plus Vm e to the power plus j120 degree. From that, if you take Vm out, you get e to the power minus j120 degrees plus e to the power plus j120 degrees, which is 2 times cos of 120 degrees. Okay, so Vm upon ZPH comes out. Within the brackets, you get 1 plus 2 times cos of 120 degrees. And that, because cos 120 degree is minus 0.5, the current in the neutral in this hypothetical case that we are looking at is 0. Neutral carries no current for a balanced system. In fact, even if losses are there, I think this result would still be true. But system has to be balanced on both generator and load side to have 0 neutral current, which never happens in real life. That's why in real life, neutral wire always carries some current. But theory at least tells you that neutral, if the system is not too much unbalanced, then neutral will carry small current, that's for sure. So it will not be too dangerous. When the small current is there, you can have a thinner wire, so the cost will go down. Neutral wire may be made very thin compared to the other wires, which have to carry large currents. These are all design considerations because of which you are doing these calculations. Okay. Now, total power, first of all, in the complex domain, that means in the phasor domain, let's see what happens. And let's worry only about the load side. I can always calculate the total power on the generator side also. But let me first look at the load side carefully. These are the basic formulas, assuming that we are defining phasors in terms of peak values. Complex power on the load side in phase A is half VAN IA complex conjugate, because losses are ignored. So voltage V capital A capital N, that is on the load side, will be same as V small a small n on the generator side. And currents are anyway the same, whether lossless or lossy system. I small a is same as I capital A. So using that, I'm writing the complex power in phase A. Okay, and then in a oh yeah, you can see the mathematics, right? Vm multiplied by complex conjugate of Vm. Actually, Vm is a real number anyway. Fine, anyway, but it gives you essentially magnitude of Vm square. That means Vm square. Vm is a real number anyway. I became too pedantic here. ZPH in general is a complex number for sure. So its complex conjugate has to be maintained. Okay. So SPHA, that means complex power in phase A on the load side is Vm square. Forget the magnitude sign. It's a real number. Vm square divided by 2 times complex conjugate of the load impedance per branch, ZPH. And similarly, SPHB also works out to a formula which is given here. Actually, it turns out to be the same as complex power in phase B, phase A, because it's a balanced system. All the complex powers are the same. You can follow the mathematics. This phase shift actually cancels each other. So the total complex power is simply 3 divided by 2 Vm square, forget magnitude sign. Vm square divided by ZPH complex conjugate. In any case, you don't have to remember these formulas. We will do these calculations using our calculator rather than using formulas. Now, once you have the answer, it will have a real part and an imaginary part. You know this from single phase systems also. The real part is known as consumed power. Its unit will be watt. The imaginary part will be known as reactive power. Its unit will be VAR. And the unit for complex power will be VA. You can draw the power triangle for this case also, as we did for single phase. Okay. Now, what happens to power in time domain? That is one of the biggest advantages of these systems. Let's see. Suppose I go back to time domain, then I need to have the expressions, time-dependent expressions for each of the phase voltages and each of the phase currents. And let me, whether I look on generator side or on the phase on the load side, it's the same thing because losses are not there. So the instantaneous power is instantaneous power in phase A plus instantaneous power in phase B plus instantaneous power in phase C. I'm using this symbolic equation to describe that. Okay. And then I substitute the values, assuming that phase A has 0 phase shift. Its time-dependent formula for voltage will be Vm cos omega t, right? And Ia in time domain, in phasor domain, we have already figured out Ia. Let's go back. It was Vm divided by ZPH. So in time domain, it is easy to convert it to Vm divided by magnitude of ZPH cos of omega t minus phi, where phi is the angle of ZPH, load angle. Okay. And then for phase B, we do the same thing. Now the formula for voltage is Vm cos omega t minus 120 degrees. I'm assuming positive phase sequence. the same thing can be proven for negative phase sequence also. And then the current will be Vm divided by magnitude of ZPH cos omega t minus 120 degree minus phi. And then for the third phase, Vm cos omega t minus 240 degrees, which is plus 120 degrees, multiplied by Vm divided by magnitude of ZPH cos of omega t plus 120 degrees minus phi. In balanced case, it's easy to write and easy to simplify all this. In unbalanced case, you'll get phi 1, phi 2, phi 3 because load is unbalanced for sure. Okay. And because of losses, more complications will arise. But for the simplified case we are looking at, I think it's easy to move forward from this equation that we have written. This equation that you have got, if you try to simplify it further, you will need to remember trigonometrical identities for cos A, cos B. Okay. Again, maybe something has been missed in the scanning, but I'm sure you can see the validity of what I have written after including whatever has been missed. Try to simplify this long formula using cos A, cos B identity. Cos A, cos B is half times cos of A plus B plus cos of A minus B, I think. So use that here. So 2 will come out from everything, and the remaining terms would become these. It will require some work from you. Okay. And once you have come to this point, you see that one term in each case has no time component, so that you combine together as 3 cos phi. The other terms, if you look at them carefully, cos of 2 omega t minus phi will remain as it is, but the remaining two, cos of 2 omega t minus phi minus 240 degrees plus cos of 2 omega t minus phi plus 240 degrees. You try to simplify that using that identity again, cos A, cos B equal to something. It will become 2 times cos of addition of 2 omega t plus 240 degrees. Yeah, what you'll get is, I think 2 cos, that's a mistake here. I think it should be 4 omega t, not 2 omega t. Because if you add the 2, it would be 1 minute. Add the 2, it should be 4 omega t, yes. And 2 times, wait a minute. Cos. And cos A minus B will be simple enough. That would be cos of 240 degrees. Okay. 2 cos A cos B is cos of A plus B plus cos of A minus B. That's what I have tried to use. So what you will get is, you further simplify the result, you will see that all time dependent terms cancel each other. That's for sure. Okay. Double check this derivation. But at the end, you will see that only 3 cos phi would survive within the brackets. Okay. This is one of the biggest advantages from operational point of view that you can expect in balanced systems. The instantaneous power has no time dependence, which cannot be true for single phase systems, even in theory, even in a lossless case, even in a balanced case. So this is one of the biggest attractions of using 3-phase systems as much as possible. Because if instantaneous power has no time dependent component, it essentially means, in case of motors, the torque generated will have no fluctuations with time. And that leads to a lot of mechanical advantages. At least take that much from me for sure. So the formula for time dependent power or instantaneous power is simply 3 Vm square cos phi divided by 2 times magnitude of ZPH, which can easily be written as 3 Vph Iph cos phi. 3 is coming because there are 3 phases and they are identical. In a single phase case, you always get V RMS I RMS cos phi. So same thing is coming out here. And since phases are identical, you are getting 3. If phases were not identical, you would have to calculate each phase separately and then add up the results. And these values, VPH and IPH, are RMS values here. Because that factor of 2 is there in the denominator that has been absorbed for converting peak values into RMS values. Vm divided by square root of 2 is VPH, RMS value, and Vm divided by square root of 2 and the entire thing divided by magnitude of ZPH is IPH. Okay. VPH is Vm divided by square root of 2. We have said that previously also. So, in this case that we are looking at, the total power, whether you calculate it using phasor approach or time domain approach, the end result is the same. You can try to compare the results. Same thing in both cases, which is fine, which is exactly what we expect. Normally, I will not go in time domain anyway, but for the sake of proving this, we had to go back to time domain. Normally, complex calculations will be done using phasor domain. Now, let's look at some numerical examples. That is the crux of the whole thing. Okay, for the ideal lossless balanced, okay, D has been missed in scanning. Okay. Lossless balanced 3 phi, that means 3 phase power system shown below. Calculate the total consumed power in the load. It's a 3 phase balanced lossless system. Okay. Frequency is 60 hertz. Calculate the total consumed power. The load has identical impedance in the 3 branches, obviously, because we have been told it's a balanced load. One resistor, I think it is 1 ohm. Again, that ohm symbol has been missed, but take it from me, it's 1 ohm. And L is 2 millihenry in all cases. Again, things have been missed in the scan. This page has been scanned badly. Okay. So each branch has a series combination of 1 ohm resistor and 2 millihenry inductor. Okay, take that as a load. The transmission lines have no impedance. That means their impedance is negligible. The phase voltages are given in RMS values: 110, 0 degree, 110, minus 120 degree, 110, plus 120 degree. So peak value will be, in each case, 110 multiplied by square root of 2 volts. Now, total power, that's what they want. That's not that difficult. You calculate the current flowing in any of the branches. Let's say in branch A of the load. Remember, for balance case, we drew single phase equivalent circuit. That's what I'm doing in that calculation there. Yeah, this is the kind of thing we do for calculation. It's a balance case, so let's look at only phase A carefully. Phase A will have a current which will be VAN divided by ZPH. And ZPH has to be calculated. 1 ohm plus J omega into 2 millihenry. XL is 2 pi FL or omega L. So I have done the calculation. 2 pi into 60. Frequency is given as 60 hertz. Yes. 2 pi into F into L. L is 2 into 10 to the power minus 3 Henry. So I get XL equal to 0.754 ohm approximately. R is 1 ohm. So the impedance ZPH is 1 plus J 0.754 ohm. Okay. If you take the magnitude, you will get approximately 1.2524 ohm. And if you take the phase angle, that is phi, which will be tan inverse 0.754 divided by 1. That works out to 37 point something in degrees. And I'm calculating current and RMS values directly. So I'm not using square root of 2 correction factor. So 110 divided by ZPH. ZPH is 1.2524 ohm with an angle of plus 37.02 degrees. That goes up and becomes negative. So many amperes RMS. So IA works out to 87.83 amperes approximately with a phase angle of minus 37.2 degrees. SA you can calculate is half. Of course, half will not be used because you're using RMS values for voltage and current. So half will not be there. It will be simply VAN into IAN, magnitude of course, and then e to the power j phi. That should give you these values. So in phase A, PA is 7.714 kilowatt approximately, and QA is 5817 VAR. Okay. The consumed power in phase A is 7.714 kilowatt. It's a balanced system. So for other phases also, you'll get the same S. SB and SC will be same as SA. So you can easily say that the consumed power will be 3 times the consumed power in phase A. And actually reactive power also will be 3 times the reactive power you are seeing in phase A because of the balanced nature of everything. I've shown that in detail here. Total Q will be QA plus QB plus QC. That means 3 times QA. So 3 times 5.817 kVAR, sorry, which is 17.45 approximately. And P will be PA plus PB plus PC, which means 3 PA, which is around 23.14 kilo. So this is the total compressed power. You can draw the power triangle if necessary at this point. I have not done it, but it's possible to do it anytime. The apparent power is magnitude of S. So that will be square root of 23.14 square plus 17.45 square, which works out to, I think, 28.98 kVA. Double check all this, of course. Now, there are few things that you should remember, and some of them are proven already, some of them may be proven later. In star connection, the magnitude of the line current is magnitude of the phase current. We have seen that, no issue at all. In delta connection, which I still have to prove, but at least I'm mentioning it to you. In delta connection, the line currents will be different from phase currents. And we will show later that the magnitude of line current will be square root of 3 times magnitude of the phase current. In case of star system, it was the magnitude of the line voltage which went up by a factor of square root of 3, but current did not change. In case of delta system, it's the other way around. In star connection, we have seen this already. the magnitude of the line voltage is square root of 3 multiplied by magnitude of phase voltage. In delta connection, the magnitude of line voltage is equal to magnitude of phase voltage. So basically, one of the quantities, either voltage or current, goes up, the other remains constant, depending on the system. A star connection is a 4-wire connection, yes, whereas a delta connection is a 3-wire connection. We know that. In a star-star system, the total power consumed by a balanced load having ZPH, yeah, this we have shown already. Okay. This is in terms of line voltages and line currents. That's why this square root of 3 has come in. In a delta connection also, this same formula will be shown to be valid. In terms of line voltages and line currents, the total power consumed in a balanced system has the same formula, whether you are dealing with delta-delta or star-star system. Now, other things that you may want to note are a little bit more on the practical side. The insulation requirement for each phase in a star-connected system is less for the same line voltage. Why? Because the current in the line is the same as the current in the phase. So it's not going up by a factor of square root of 3, which is the case for delta system. So the amount of insulation you have to put around the transmission line wires or even wires on the generator side or on the load side will be less because lesser current is going through the wires. That's why they are saying insulation requirements are less, so cost will go down. Star connection is normally used for both transmission and distribution. Okay. And whereas delta connection is normally used for distribution. Okay, fine. Something that you may want to note right now. Don't try to justify too much to yourself. Delta connection is more on the customer side. That means within the city, within a locality, etc. There must be reasons for it, I'm sure. Since insulation required is less, star connections can be used for long distance transmissions, obviously. Star connections are often used in applications requiring less starting current. We'll prove this maybe later, but it's good to note this. Neutral wire is normally used as ground too, normally, but and be careful, it's not true in a lot of cases. However, a separate ground wire may be used if the neutral voltage is not zero. In fact, this is always a problem. Although theory says that we were assuming neutral voltage to be zero. For unbalanced cases, you will see that neutral voltage is actually not zero. I'll maybe show it to you through some numerical examples. That means the ground wire has to be separated from neutral. Ground has to be at zero potential, even in unbalanced systems. Problem 2. If one of the three phases fails, broken generator, will the delta circuit be more reliable than the Y circuit? You think about it. I think I have a solution somewhere in some other document. So we'll look at it later. For this, you can forget. It's a repetition of some page, I think. Oh yeah, that page which was badly printed, it has been repeated here. Page 8 is repeated at the end. So if you are not sure about on page 8, what is written on page 8 there, look at the last page. This is page 8 repeated and scanned better. I'm sorry, this document is a bit mixed up. Page 8 in the beginning was not fully scanned, but at the end I have shown it again with a better scan. I did not get time to move this there. Okay. So there's a reason why page 8 is repeated. It is completely scanned, with nothing missed. Okay, so keep that in mind. Last page is important. It is a substitution for page 8 which was there in the document previously. Again, something has been missed despite the best effort, but I think you can do the math yourself. Prove that time dependent power has no time dependent component. Okay. Now let me go back to some solved examples again. Let's see if we can do some YY examples. Let's see. There's a lot more here. Let me go back to one. See what is there. Yeah, this we have done already. This is actually a YY system, although they have drawn it in a different manner. But if you try to visualize it as Y system on the left side, I think you can see the point, right? There's a Y connection on the left side, and neutral wire is running from small n to capital N on the right side. And in between, these are star connections. This is a YY system for sure. The load is not balanced, unfortunately. In phase A, the load has 78 ohm plus J54 ohm. In phase B, it has 77 ohm plus J56 ohm. And in phase C, it has 79 ohm plus J55. Even the lines are not lossless. They have impedances which are also different. Phase A has gone through a line which has impedance 1.6 ohm plus J4 ohm. Phase B has gone through a line which has impedance 2.6 ohm plus J2.4 ohm. And phase C has gone through an impedance of 0.8 ohm plus J3.8 ohm. Not only that, the generators have internal impedances also. In phase A generator, the internal impedance is 0.4 ohm plus J2 ohm. In phase B generator, that internal impedance is 0.4 ohm plus J1.6 ohm. And in phase C, it is 0.2 ohm plus J1.2 ohm. This is real life. Okay. You don't need equations. You need common sense here if you want to solve these problems. Neutral, fortunately, has been shown to have no impedance, which is going to help a little bit in calculations. Now, the peak voltages are given, I suppose, although they have not mentioned whether these values are peak or phase. We'll see. Yeah, these are RMS values, I think. Find the RMS value of I don't know what IO. Let's see what it is. Anyway, important thing is to analyze the whole thing. IO is the current flowing through the neutral. Okay. They want the neutral current. It will not be zero in this case because we are looking at a unbalanced system. So I'm assuming that these values, 277 volts for phase generators, are all RMS values. If we are wrong, we'll see very soon. And it is 0 degree, then minus 120 degree, then plus 120 degree. So it's positive phase sequence, ABC. Okay, that's clear. Now let's look at the solution. I'll assume that their calculations are correct. How do you calculate the neutral voltage? It's a very important thing for which there were no equations in the document that I showed you. How are they handling it? What they are doing is they are applying KCL at the node capital N. All the currents coming in algebraically summed and in complex domain should go to zero. That's what they're doing. V capital N, oh yeah, actually these are peak values. I think 277 is surprising. Vn minus 240. Okay, maybe there is a misprint here. Maybe they meant 240 degrees, not 277 degrees, because here they are using 240 degrees actually throughout. There may be a typo here in the problem. It should be 240, I think. Anyway, the important thing is figure out all the currents coming into N along with the direction and then sum up the results. Vn minus 240 divided by everything in phase A, the impedance of everything in phase A. 0.4 plus J2 plus 1.6 plus J4 plus 78 plus J54. What is this? 1.6 plus 0.4 gives you 2, and 2 plus 78 gives you 0.4 plus 1.2, 80. 80 ohm. And how about the reactive part? 2 plus 4, 6, and 60 ohm. So 80 plus J60. Again, they have made a mistake. I think there's a typo. It should be 80 plus J60 ohm, the total impedance in phase A. Okay, so please check. Maybe there are mistakes in the calculations here, but I want you to be conceptually clear of how to handle this. The total, first of all, this is not 277 volt. I think it's 240 volts there. So 240 minus Vn, or if you want to do it other way around, then Vn minus 240 divided by the total impedance in phase A will give you the neutral current, or will give you the current coming in that path. Okay. And then you do the similar thing for the other two phases, along with the fact that generator voltages now will shift by a certain phase angle. Okay. Plus, and the last term is important, Vn divided by 10. Vn divided by 10. I think they missed that. They are assuming what? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I think they are assuming 10 ohm impedance in the neutral line also. That's the way it looks to me. So this has to be done carefully. And once you do this, solve the resulting equation, calculate Vn. You'll see that it's not 0. The message is that for unbalanced system, by the way, these things are normally done using simulation tools. In real life, at least, nobody has time to do complex calculations. Simulation tools do help in ensuring accurate and fast calculations. And I'm slightly doubtful whether these calculations are correct. You'll have to verify them yourself. But the conceptual message is that Vn will not be 0. That's for sure. Okay. Yeah. They are actually assuming 10 ohm impedance in the neutral wire, which they forgot to show in the diagram. Once you know Vn, it's easy enough to figure out the current going through the neutral wire. So please double check everything as far as calculation goes, but also try to understand the theory. Oh, this is delta system. I will not be able to look at it right now. Let me see what else is there. Okay. We will not look at it anymore. Let's go to something else. There are many other solved problems here. Oh, give me 1 minute. This is last year's midterm question paper. Let me see if something is there that may be worth. Last year, this was the midterm question paper, and along with the solution, I'm showing it to you. Show that 1 kilowatt hour of energy is equivalent to so much. This you can do. I've done it in the class. Okay. Everything is not related to three-phase systems right now. We are going back a little bit when looking at this question paper. So question 1, part A should be simple enough for you to tackle. Part B, a 500 volt DC source is connected across the two terminals of a 20 ohm load. How much energy would be consumed over a continuous 24-hour period. We have done something like that in the initial lectures. So it should be easy to figure out this. I have the solution. I'll show you in a minute. Repeat B by replacing the source with a 220 volt 50 hertz source. Now, in part B, it was DC. In part C, it is AC. So RMS values, etc., have to be brought in. I'll show you the solution. Okay. Part D says repeat B by replacing the load with a series RL circuit containing R equal to so much and L equal to so. Now this is where, this question becomes a little confusing because I'm telling you to repeat B, not C. And B actually has a DC source. And a DC source connected to a series RL circuit will mean L will have no effect. L will have zero reactance, right? So it's a purely resistive circuit again because it was the DC input. If I had told you to repeat C rather than B, then results would have been very interesting. But even here, conceptually, it's a very interesting case. You should get the same answer as in part B, but the difference will come, I think. Yeah, difference will not be there because 20 ohm resistor was there in part B as well as in part D. So I think you should get the same answer. L will not matter. Its reactance will be zero for DC input. The part E says repeat B, but now replace the load by a series RLC circuit, and it's a DC input. So capacitor will be open 1 upon 2 pi FC when F is 0 is infinitely large. So nothing will flow. In that case, there will be no power consumption. This is the conceptual question. Part E will have zero answer. No calculations required. Let's see. Part A is simple. We have seen the solution in other documents also. It's given once again. This is part B. I hope you can easily relate to this. I have a DC source connected to 20 ohm resistor. So you calculate I, etc. It's very easy. Even in 10th standard, you were able to do it, I think. Nothing new here. Okay. Part C is, energy consumption. So you take the power multiplied by the time given. You get the answer. But double check all the calculations. Okay. Part C is where AC comes in. Even here, it's not that difficult. You take the voltage divided by resistance, you get the current. Everything is RMS as far as voltage and current are concerned. So VRMS multiplied by IRMS will give you the power multiplied by time to get the energy. Answers given. In part D, as I said, reactance will be 0, so nothing will change. Z would still be 20 ohm. So same answer as in part B. Last part will have 0 answer, obviously because capacitor is open for DC operation. You don't need to calculate anything to come up with the answer. Anyway, this was not related to three-phase systems, but fine. Question 2 last year was, what are the main advantages and disadvantages of a three-phase power system? You can handle it very well, I know, over a single-phase power system. Rigorously show that in a balanced YY power system, the current flowing in the neutral wire is 0. We showed it today. If you are not sure, do it yourself once. Okay. Rigorously show that in a balanced YY power system, the instantaneous power at both generator and load ends has no time dependent component. We showed it on the load end, but even on the generator end, in a lossless case, it will be the same story. If it is a lossy case, it can still be shown that on generator side, the instantaneous power will not depend on time. I've not given the solution in detail. I expect you to be able to handle it based on notes. Okay, this delta thing we'll do now. Actually, we have done this already. Derive the equations for converting an unbalanced delta load into an equivalent star load. Yeah, we have done all this and vice versa. These equations were derived in some of my previous lectures. Okay, this is a YY system. This problem we should look at. This belongs to what we are doing today. Consider a balanced YY power system with positive phase sequence and line voltage magnitude equal to 13.8 kV RMS. In my questions, I'm very clear. I always tell you whether it's RMS or P. If I forgot to tell you, you assume RMS values for all voltages and currents. The transmission lines have negligible impedance, good, lossless case for transmission lines at least. The neutral wire has negligible impedance too, which is good. Each branch of the load contains a single 1.5 kilo ohm resistor. So load is also balanced and it is purely resistive. Reasonably simple case. Calculate the phasors for the three phasor voltages. Okay, I'll show you the solution in case you are not sure. The phasors for the three phase currents. I'll show that again. You know this, but we'll go through it together to make sure you get how to handle all this. The phasors for the three line currents. Okay, actually phase currents and line currents are the same in this case. So answers in B and C should be the same, I think, but we'll go through it. The complex power generated total and the load, okay, the complex power generated, that means on the generator side, and the complex power on the load side, both. Anyway, I think they will be the same because lines have no losses. Let's see. Magnitude of VLL, line to line voltage is 13.8 kilovolts. So obviously magnitude of phase voltage will be 13.8 kilovolt divided by square root of 3. Okay. And we are continuing with RMS values throughout. In peak, of course, you will have to multiply this answer by square root of 2. So in peak terms, the phase voltage is 11.2677 kilovolt. In RMS, it is 7.9674 kilovolt. Now VAN, if you write peak value, then it will be Vm e to the power j0. It's positive phase sequence anyway. So these are the three famous expressions for positive sequence. Vm, if I want to go back to peak value, then Vm should be 11.2677 kilovolt. Okay. Yeah, that's what it's written here. VBN will be the same thing as VAN, but a phase shift of minus 120 degree will come in. VCN will be same as VBN, but an additional phase shift of minus 120 degree will come. So these are the phasor expressions for the three phase voltages. Question part A is complete. You don't need frequency to complete this exercise, I think. Now part B, the phasors, the phasors for the three phase, the three phase currents. Yeah, they want phase currents first. Fine. The phase current in A is I from small a to capital A. So I'm writing it I small a capital A. You could write it I small a or I capital A also. It would simply be VAN divided by R. The load is purely resistive. So just take the value of resistor that is given to you. That's why frequency information is not necessary here. Wait a minute. The resistance is 1.5 kilo. Yes. So let's put that in there. and IBB will be VBN divided by R, and ICC will be VCN divided by R. These are the phase currents. VAN, VBN, VCN are all given to you. The magnitudes as well as the phase, both are given. So plug in the values and do the calculations. Before starting calculation, make sure you have done the theory part correct and double check. Otherwise, everything will go wrong. Now the detailed calculations are given here. Hopefully, there's no mistake. 11.2677 divided by 1.5. Since the resistance is also kilo ohm, resistance is in kilo ohm and voltage is also in kilovolts. So the answer will be in amperes and peak value, because I'm using the peak value for VM. Right? Yeah. So current in phase A is this. You can convert it into RMS value by dividing the result by square root of 2. You get 5.3116 plus J0 amperes. The load is purely resistive, and phase voltage has also got no phase shift. So obviously the current has no phase angle also, in phase A at least. In phase B, this voltage has got minus 120 degree phase shift. So you'll have to repeat the calculation with that additional complication. Now the current will have both real and imaginary parts. Although the load is purely resistive, but because there is a phase shift on the generator side, in the 3 generators, the phase currents, except phase A current, the other 2 will be complex, I think. And I've done the calculations. You can double check. I've done both peak and RMS values to clarify the point. Now the line currents will be same as phase currents. So the same answers that you got in B will be applicable to part C also. Total power. Okay, double check. Oh yeah. Double check if you have time in the exam. If not, forget it. Neutral current should be 0. So try to add IAA plus IAB plus ICC. It should work out to 0. That's a double check on your calculations. Now, on the generator side, the complex power is this: VAN IAA complex conjugate plus VBN IBB complex conjugate plus VCN ICC complex conjugate. Okay. So in any case, it's a balanced system. So I could have done only one calculation and I could have multiplied the result by 3, but I have not done that. Instead, I have become a little more rigorous. But at the end, I get simply a multiplication factor of 3. Because phases cancel each other in the other terms because of the complex conjugate operation in current. So double check this. The total value of consumed power in the load is purely resistive. So Q has to be 0, like it or not. Even though current is complex, the load will not consume any complex power. It will have only real power. It's purely real load. No? So P works out to be almost 127 kilowatt. On the load side also, it will be the same, because it's a lossless transmission line throughout. So whether it's generator side or load side, you will see that S is purely real. The nature of S is dictated by nature of load primarily, and load is purely resistive. So Q would be 0 on both generator and load side. Okay, this question we cannot handle right now. So I think I'll not go any further in this document. Let me see if there is something else. Okay, this is actually a little more complicated. Delta generators, but the load has a parallel combination of delta and star. By the way, there are techniques to convert a delta connected generator system into an equivalent star connected system. And that could possibly be used here, but I'm avoiding that route. It will confuse you too much. However, on the load side, at least conceptually, you can see that you can take one of the loads and convert it into the other kind and then do a parallel combination to get the total load. We have done that in one of the previous lectures. But still, since we have not done the analysis of delta-delta system, let me not go too far in this problem. I'll come back to it later. Yeah, this is a very interesting question, actually. Given VAN equal to 110 volt with some phase angle phi, VAB equal to VAB with 0 degree. AB is the line voltage, while AN is the phase voltage. Keep that in mind. And phi is greater than 0 is given to you. Determine all the phase voltages, line voltages, and the phase sequence. Try to read the solution. We have not done it in detail, but a graphical solution is generally preferred, although non-graphical techniques can also be used. Read the answer carefully. The easiest way is to draw it graphically. All balanced three-phase voltages generate the same shape. Yes, we know that. We start off by sketching VAB, which has to be a horizontal line because that's the reference for everything else. In fact, it is already given at 0 degrees. So I guess that is the reference. Yeah. Next, we know that the value of VAN has its head connected to A, either coming down. Sorry about this. Let me go back. Yeah, it's a little long document. It's gone too far. Yeah, let me show you the diagram also along with the discussion. That is the best. Look at the diagram carefully. Magnitude of VAB is shown as the reference point because it has 0 degree angle. That's given to you. VAB has 0 degree angle. So that has to be drawn horizontally. All the other voltages, whether line voltages or phase voltages, are drawn in this diagram with appropriate phase angle. Okay. You know that line voltages and phase voltages have a 30 degree phase difference for a YY system. That fact has been captured here. If you are not sure, study this diagram carefully. Maybe I'll come back to it later, but they have given you the exact solution numerically also. I could have done the solution without drawing the diagram, I know for sure. VAN, you know that line voltages are plus 30 degree ahead. Like the phase shift of VAB is 30 degree, plus 30 degree compared to phase shift of VAN, right? So if I use that factor, VAN should be simply (110) with an angle of 30 degrees. Just 1 minute. VAB is 0 degree. Okay, I thought it should be minus 30 degrees. There's something funny here. Anyway, let's believe that solution. But once you have figured out VAN, the other two are very easy to figure out. Yeah, actually it should be minus 30 degrees. It cannot be plus 30 degrees. We know, if you go back to the analysis that I've done, that VAB has plus 30 degree phase angle compared to VAN. So if VAB is taken as a reference, VAN should have minus 30 degree angle. That's what I think. So it should be 110 volt minus 30 degrees. And then the next one, of course, will be the same voltage shifted by 120 degrees. And then the next one will be shifting by another 120 degrees. So others are easy to figure out. And the magnitude of VAB is simple enough that you know it will be simply the magnitude of VAN multiplied by square root of 3. You don't really need the diagram to figure out all this. So that is given here. Okay. So magnitude of VAB is known. From there, you can easily write the complete phasor expression for VAB. So this problem, despite the diagram, is not that difficult. The next one is more conceptual. And I think this was the question I was asking you in one of my own notes also. Is it possible to generate the effect of a balanced three-phase delta connected source with only two voltage sources? If so, how? Let us start with three sources arranged in a delta as shown below. Fine. Looking at this figure, we can see that KVL applies going around the loop leads to a sum of 0 volts. Obviously, VAB plus VBC plus VCA. VAB is 200 with 120 degrees. Actually, VAB is 200 with 0 degrees. VBC is 200 with minus 120 degrees, and VCA is 200 plus 120 degrees. They have forgotten to mention ABC here. They should have done that. So KVL will say that algebraic sum of all these will be 0. Okay. Now, if we remove any single source, KVL still states that the voltage across the open part of the circuit is equal to the same voltage and phase of the source that was removed. So basically what they are saying is that we can still generate, even if one source is broken, you can still generate delta connected voltage with only two sources. Even if you don't understand mathematics, even if one thing is clear, that even if one of the generator fails, the other two would continue to supply voltage to the customer. That's for sure. Okay. Because other two generators are there to do the job. Of course, if two of them break down, then that's it. I don't think you can do much about it. So essentially, this means the delta system is more reliable. In star system, you think carefully. There also, maybe it's possible, but delta definitely has the clear advantage that line-to-line voltage will remain unaffected, even if one generator fails. The other two will continue to deliver. The current carrying capacity will go down, but voltage will be maintained.